So, guys, good morning, everyone. Great to have you on board this morning. I know there's, as always, with these events, there'll be a few people just dialing in or a little bit late. So, just because of timing and we've got a lot to get through, I'll kick start. But thanks to everyone for jumping on the call and joining us. So, today we're talking about all things integrating Dynamics 365 with your existing housing management system. I think it's a theme that a lot of our housing association customers have had a real curiosity in as to how potentially may they integrate such such like technology as Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, um, both from in the short term to add impact, and actually can it work in tandem and in parallel to existing housing management to remove or mitigate disruption within the organization. So we've got a lot to get through this morning. But before we do that, as we're talking about potential hybrids and integrations, I thought I'd start with some pretty weird examples of integration where it can go wrong. So, hopefully when we talk about some of the integrations and show you some of the capabilities that we have, they're a little bit more straightforward and simpler than some of the integrations that you've got on screen here. But hey, um, on the left-hand side, I think we've got a hotter and an Ella fly at the bottom. But yeah, from an integration perspective, integration in summary isn't always the easiest of things to do. But hopefully some of the things that we're going to talk to you about today will give you guys some oversight and some ideas as to where potentially Dynamics could, in the short term, integrate with your housing management system to add impact, and what that could also look like as a longer term piece. Just as a bit of fun, because it's Thursday morning and it's 8:30, and I'm conscious we've probably woke you up. Some of you have got hampers, some of you haven't. Um, just if you've got a pen and paper, just for 2 minutes, as we're talking about integrations and duos, if you have any clue, starting with one, writing down on a piece of pen and paper, who is on the left, top left screen, a famous double act. Apparently 3'3" in height, but just looking for the name of who they are. And then question two, the famous Twix, loved by some, hated by others. Does anybody know? Again, if you want to use the chat facility and really show off your knowledge, feel free. Or we're going to share the answers at the end, of course. And number three, a well-known double act. Whereabouts do they hail, or whereabouts do they come from? On the right-hand side. And you can imagine the bottom is slightly harder because I thought the first three were far too easy. Just giving you a couple of harder ones at the bottom to see what are we looking at the bottom left-hand side, and then who are we looking at on the bottom right-hand side. Cool. So, as I say, just a quick bit of fun. Anybody anybody want to shout out who the top and left are? Or use the chat facility. And if we're all a bit shy because it's 8:30, then I'm happy to just give you the answers. Right. So it was obviously Bert and Ernie was on the left-hand side. The Twix was absolutely manufactured by who? It was, of course, Mars or Mars Chocolates. The city that the Anton Deck hailed from of his course is Newcastle. If we've got any fellow Geordies on the call. Now, the bottom two obviously are a little bit harder. Does anybody want to hazard a guess as to what we're looking at on the bottom left-hand side? Real strong brownie points if anyone can conform. Like it, Dave. Like it. Bottom left-hand side. Anyone hazard a guess? It's not a Rolls, unfortunately. It is the first hybrid car that was ever in existence, apparently. It combined electric and gas. So there you have it. You know, you'd like to think by now, if we're talking about hybrid systems and integrating systems, if they were able to make hybrid vehicles back in the day at that pace, you know, you'd like to think we've moved on a little bit. And who, in the bottom right-hand corner, again, I'd be very surprised if anyone got that, is Dr. Michael Greaves. So, chap from Boston who created the idea and first concept, digital concept of a massive topic that's in the sector at the moment, which is, of course, digital twins. So that completes the quiz. Use the chat function to see whether you got any more than 3. Please do let me know your scores. Yeah, just a bit of fun to kick us off. So, what are we going to go through today? As I said right at the top of the session, you know, there's curiosity in the sector, and I think a lot of conversation that we have with our existing housing customers and some new ones as well about how can the likes of Microsoft's Dynamics 365 and Power Platform capability effectively, you know, add impact to our organization. But we have this issue here where we might have either legacy systems or, you know, a real stronghold of an existing housing management system. And of course, you know, what we don't want is really a situation where we introduce all this great new Microsoft capability, but then our data problem gets bigger because we've got disparate sets of data. So integration is a theme that's absolutely massively key. And I think when I've been speaking to a lot of the housing associations and some of you guys probably on the call today, it's getting your head around where potentially could you start on that journey? How could the integration work? You know, so that you can add impact in certain areas of the housing association, but also potentially at current integrate with existing housing management systems that you may have, and over time look at a roadmap to see whether some more of that capability transitions into Microsoft or not. So it's really talking and demystifying some of the myths about integration, hybrid housing management systems, and really can answering the question, can Dynamics work in an environment alongside your housing management system, and is that right for the short term or long term? So in terms of who I've got with me, I've some clever guys on the call. So Ollie, who I think has been presenting at a number of our housing breakfast sessions that we've had so far, will be showing you some of the capabilities around Power Platform, Power Apps, and Dynamics 365 for housing, and showcasing some of the stuff that we've got in our accelerator. Sumo will be going first with the demonstration and actually showing you how we've got our Azure Service Bus ESB data integration framework capability, which is built on Microsoft's leading integration tools, and how we have leveraged that and integrated so far with existing housing management systems, and how to really, you know, think about how we could integrate with housing management systems in short term and long term. And of course, me hosting the session, running pointless, stupid quizzes, and trying to keep you awake from 8:30 till 9:30. Some of you don't know us yet, some of you do. So great to have existing customers on board and new people. Crimson, for want of a better word, are a Microsoft Gold partner, delivering Microsoft business applications to the housing, home builder, local government, and also higher education sectors to help solve business problems and realize the opportunity with the Microsoft technology. So I wanted to start with the Big Bang Theory. A lot of our customers and prospects who speak to us, I think very much about this idea of Dynamics as being all things to all men and women, of course. And of course, the idea of putting Dynamics 365 in a housing association is absolutely true. Um, for some housing associations, it may be right that Dynamics or the Microsoft application solves all those problems, but we kind of at Crimson want to demystify this idea that it has to. You know, there's a big idea that, you know, when housing associations like yourself are going through the process of replacing the housing management system, we recognize that that is no short or small task. And whilst the Big Bang approach is absolutely one that can be adopted, actually what we've seen is that there's been a lot of greater impact in housing associations turning their attention to specific phases. So, okay, the outline roadmap might be there, but looking at specific iterative phases to prove capability drops and value on an iterative basis, and seeding Dynamics 365 in to complement some of the existing systems that you've got, or even in some cases, unlocking further capability that you might already have within your housing association, but that just isn't able to be tapped into at the moment because of barriers to entry with technology. So, what we will absolutely say is on a case by case basis, Dynamics can be the backbone of the housing management system for housing associations. Please don't always think that it has to be that big moving juggernaut that has to disrupt and rip everything out before you can put Dynamics in. So of course, some of the solution themes that we've touched upon with a number of our customers and that we work upon across housing is these sorts of solution themes that you're seeing and looking at on the screen here. So there is, as we know in housing, subject to the scale of you as a housing association, a lot of service lines, a lot of areas, a lot of complexity. And whilst there are these solution themes and this idea that you might want to do everything, those can be broken down into manageable chunks or themes or areas that you could potentially over time phase in. And we'll talk about some of those in a short while and how you might do that. So, Crimson, as some of you know, have a series of what we call accelerator templates. So, we take the best in breed Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform capabilities, and realizing that there's a gap between the capabilities that come out of the box from Microsoft and what you need as a housing association, what we've created is a series of housing accelerator templates which we're able to drop into to support iterative phases or a wider roadmap approach. So just on the right hand side here is some examples where with existing customers we've focused on specific capability drops or phases that we've then integrated into housing management systems. And I'll talk more about those examples later. So why a hybrid solution? Why potentially even doing something like a proof of concept, as opposed to deciding that Dynamics has to be the route to replace all of your housing management system? Well, it's quite simple, really. There's a lot of reasons, but to consolidate into I think the four salient points that we see when we talk to our customers at Crimson, um, is you guys have an appetite in the sector, especially with aspects like the ombudsman coming into play, from a complaints perspective, and just generally the driving force that is customers' expectations today. There is a desire as you as housing associations to deliver more modern, exceptional experiences. And as we know, Microsoft, being the technology juggernaut that they are continuing to bring out developments through the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform capabilities that really allow you to get closer to those customer engagements, allow you to change and shape the way that you engage with customers, both from a self-services and an intelligent perspective, and using automation to make those experiences more effective, and the use of portals and mobile apps. Secondly, as much as is important the customer and the tenant is, your colleagues and the internal customer, actually if you see this as a much bigger piece to absolutely rip and replace your housing management system from the off, what potentially we're looking at is a large scale project that, and with a hybrid and a proof of concept, potentially having the ability to empower colleagues sooner at a shorter velocity to be able to make a difference and allow them to deliver the great service and be, create the service as personal as possible to those customers and tenants that you have. Agility, it's about approving agility and from you as an organization being able to show that actually with some of the low code, no code applications that Microsoft have, how quickly you can turn around some of the business's requests or turn business solutions and problems into actual tangible solutions that work for your internal customers and customers. And more importantly, take more accountability in-house for you being able to influence how the business application changes. And lastly, of course, as an obvious one, in working in a hybrid way from the outset and starting with proof of concepts on specific areas, of course, you're minimizing disruption and maintaining the smooth running of the organization. So, this idea of rather than doing a big project on the outset, and whilst we absolutely advocate you have a roadmap and an outline journey that's updated iteratively, starting with a refined, understood ring-fence capability drop and integrating into your existing housing management system means that you can prove ROI quicker and minimize that disruption. So I did my best. I'm not very scientific or mathematic, but I tried a very simple equation. And me, Sumo, and Ollie agreed that starting small and focused, proving value, timesing by minimizing disruption will allow you to create better experiences for your customer and colleague. And again, guys, we massively advocate this idea that it's really important that you think about the overlining objectives and where you want to go and what that means for your people, your processes, but actually starting something in a contained area and way and integrating with your existing estate, we found is very effective. Okay, so just before we get into some of the demonstrations, we just want to elicit and give everyone a quick update as to what our integration capability is, and how we integrate with existing housing management systems today. So over to you, Sumo.
Brilliant. Good morning, everyone. So today is a very interesting subject, integrating between systems or integration platforms. So integration, if you really think about what is integration, it's about a perfect marriage. It's getting data from one system and sending to the other. But is it only that, or it is all about maintainability, sustainability, all these other NFCs factors, which actually comes to the latest stage that we also see. So what you can see here, this is a bit of a scary picture. But that is, trust me, with my last 20 years of experience, that's kind of a picture I see in most of the organizations. So we all start with a great concept or a great thought that, okay, we will be having a very clean solution or design which will be sending the data from a system, orchestrating, massaging into some other system. But then over the time, it builds into something like this. It's not anyone's fault. It's probably because of the time, the budget, and also some system capabilities. We sometimes misuse the systems. We sometimes, do it very hurriedly, not knowing the system's capabilities, and then we just get data from a system, send it to another system. Ultimately, if you heard about the concept of design rot, that's what it becomes. As you can see here, that data supply systems going into the data center, then it's all point-to-point integrations in place. But trust me, in many of these organizations, they also have got a good ERP systems, but sometimes, as I said, because of the time and budget, they probably avoid it. And also resource constraints is one of the other things. So what is the Crimson Integrate? What we are trying to solve here? We are trying to force the organizations to use the framework. Not only from a picture point of view, it looks good, but trust me, the organizations wherever we have implemented, it gives us the one piece of maintainability or one piece of looking at the problems, whether it's coming from your ERP systems or your dynamic systems or your Power Platforms or etc. or your Oracle systems from anywhere. So Crimson Integrate as a core is, you can think of as a competitor to, let's say, Dell Boomi or Informatica or OIS. So we build this enterprise level of integration platform, or if you know the concept of iPaaS. So the iPaaS is this at its core. So it connects those disjointed systems via this communication channel between the multiple systems. Okay. However, you can still bypass it. You can still bypass it. You can still have your point-to-point communications. But what we also, along with it, we give a proper training to those support systems. We through our support channel, we do this. Any of the CRs or any of the new project framework, we discuss with them, try to convince that this is the best way of doing it, and also we do a cost comparison. I'll give you a simple example. For example, one customer came up and they said that we need to do a data warehouse implementation, and then we need to get data from the Dynamics. So those Dynamics data needs to be sent to this data warehouse. And then what they thought that the data warehouse, the integration can be done in a bespoke way because they have a very short frame of time. We came along and we did a cost analysis. Through the cost analysis, it came out that though the initial development actually takes small amount of time, however, on the longer run, your the Crimson integration framework and these ERP systems are be more valuable, not only from a costing perspective, from a longer run, how much you are paying for a license and etc., but also from your supportability perspective. So when I talk about supportability comes with your how much time you're spending to the RCAs. So for your root cause analysis, how much time you're doing it for your fixes. So given to you, think about that this scenario that your support system or your support resources are sitting over, and then there is some integration failure happens in a system. How quickly they get notified, and then how quickly they can actually find the root cause analysis or the root cause of this issue, and then how quickly they can fix it, and also whether the system gives the ability to replay the problem area immediately or not. So those kind of features, any developers, if you talking, these are all, they actually do the system on a happy path. So happy path is okay, I'll get the data, I'll send the data. But when you say, okay, is this system is performant enough, is your system is reliable enough, or you know what, I need to do 2 days, I need to do 5 days, I need to do 6 days, so they will give you additional cost based on it. But all of these ones are part and parcel of Crimson Integrate framework, which we have built over the years. So as you can see here, the Crimson Integrate framework is the core of this integration platform engine. And we have got the several connectors, we talk it. So for example, you need to send the data from your dynamic system into, let's say, Orchard. So through the Crimson integration framework, we will get the data, we will send the data. The remaining things like security, the acknowledgement mechanism, the relay, the orchestrations, transformations, they are all inbuilt into it. So once we get all these connectors fitted in there, the rest of the things are given. You do not need to worry, or you do not need to worry anything about all these the nice things what you talk about. We are talking about NFCs. They are all inbuilt into the system. So sorry, Jordan, if you just go back to the slide, please. So what over here, we are just talking about, let's say, the different connectors. So this is not the entire list, but it's just show the kind of things what we do. Let's say your file to a SQL database, or to your REST API to your the ERP systems, from your ASP systems to another ASP systems. So Crimson Integrate is, we can talk about, is a cloud-based any-to-any integration platform. So we are not bound to a particular source or a destination. It can be any-to-any, whether Dynamics is there or not there, whether the REST services are there or not there. It can actually work with your Oracle systems or any other systems and send the data to your any other ERP systems. Yeah. So some of the capabilities which we have specified in here. So as I said, it's a cloud-based any-to-any integration framework. It can also connect to your on-premise data sources seamlessly. It's a fast extract, as the framework imposes these data rules and boundary concepts as per definitely industry best practices. It's a completely decoupled architecture, because if you really go into the design, then you will see that the each of these units sorry for that, that's a digital disruption. So each of these units, they are completely decoupled. So the unit does its own job and pass the data to the other. Why it is so important? Because you can do every function into one unit, and when it fails, it takes a lot of time to fix that problem. And again, you need to retest the entire thing. If it is completely decoupled, then it is very easy to identify the root cause of the problem, and also the fix. You can only fix that particular unit, not the entire thing. Yeah. Visibility of entire messaging journey in a single window. This is very important, and this is going to be, I'm going to show you in the demonstration. But you can see the entire messaging journey in the single window. You can see, okay, we got the data, it went to the orchestration, it went to this layer, it went to that layer, and then it will basically show you the whole journey in a second. Security by design. Entire messaging system can be encrypted. It's just a button click. So, for example, there are customers where they are sending the PII data or very sensitive data, and they want to encrypt the entire payload. So we are doing the AES 256-bit encryption during the entire payload. So, for example, the moment we captured the data in our integration layer, from that moment, the entire payload has been encrypted. Not even your support resources also can see the data. Yeah. So if someone really wants to see the data, they need to have a proper approval in order to, decrypt the data. Okay. Automated alerting for any failure. These things are given these days. So the notifications are given to any sort of platform. This thing failed, you get an alert, whether in your SMS or as an email. It's been audited by companies, load testing performed with millions of messages, pen test passed. Again, those are all the nice things. And also to tell you that we are built this on AIS, which is the Azure Infrastructure Integration Services. And Microsoft is strongly proposing this design, and the Microsoft is strongly proposing the Crimson Integrate framework to its other customers as well. So they are proposing us to implement to the various customers who we are bidding with them. Yeah, so some of these features again can be used for synchronous and asynchronous operation, built-in acknowledgement assistance, sessions, and message ordering. So these are the features generally you will see in any of the ESB platforms. So Crimson Integration Framework is also an ERP or ESB platform, and then it has also got the similar sort of features what our other competitors are offering to.
Thanks, Sumo. And I know we've got a number of slides here as well for more information on people who want to see a little bit more about or go into a little bit more technical depth as to how the Crimson Integrate capability works, how the APIs work, how the integrations potentially get in and out, what we build, what's versus configure versus development. And at this point, I was hoping, I know we've got integration connectors already into various different housing systems and third-party systems that the housing associations are using at the moment, like Rightmove, Zoopla, I mean, even things like Panwin. I've got some good screenshots, I think, of some of the demo stuff that you're going to show, and I was wondering at this point, it'd be great just to jump into the demonstration of some of the capabilities that you've started to work on already with Azure Service Bus.
Okay, so let me share my screen to you, and I'm going to share. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Perfect.
Super. So this is the dashboard which you have built on Dynamics. So as I said, Dynamics is one of the connectors of Crimson Integration Framework, and also the presentation layer of the integration framework is actually on the Dynamics. If you do not have Dynamics and you want to implement with the Crimson Integration Framework, the whole presentation needs to be done in a website, in a bespoke website. Okay, and the data which is currently in the Dynamics, that can be on the SQL. So as I said, this is not Dynamics agnostic. So at this moment, but Dynamics gives us extremely rich features among its presentation capability, as you can see here. So for example, what you can see here is a few messaging extract journey in the quarter. You should be able to see that, okay, how many message extracts been processed, how many has been errored, how many are in progress, that kind of stuff. So for example, I'm very keen to see these non-resolved errors, because 99.99% probably we do not need to worry about. The data is been floating seamlessly between systems. But what happens, how quickly you can solve the things when it fails. So I can I can see it in here. Okay, this particular thing has been failed. You can just click on the record. That basically goes you to that particular one, and it says that okay, network ID doesn't exist in the Rightmove test system. So this is a real life example. Okay, it's not something I have created. So that means the network, when we got the data, the network ID was missing because Rightmove was doing a refresh in their system. So we just send this message output to the Rightmove. Rightmove immediately fixed that. However, in our scenarios, it can be very clear that okay, this particular things is not working, this has been failed, or etc. etc. So as you can see, the output shows you the exact data. The the source message also shows that. Let me go to a particular one. So let's say a contact. A contact we are now trying to send from Dynamics to a destination. So what is the destination? It's actually been sent to multiple destinations, one to the Orchard system, another to your data warehouse. Okay, the same data, we have sent it to multiple systems, and both of them systems are actually processed successfully. If it is not processed successfully, it would have been shown here as an error or non-processed. Okay, and you can see the data which actually been sent or we captured. The source message will be here. So that is definitely in your giving, that you can see the raw message which actually we are trying to integrate to. Yeah. So if I go into, let's say, some other one. So this is your tenancy data. Again, we are trying to, the source is Dynamics. We are trying to send it to Orchard, and it's been successful. Tenancy record to Orchard, and it's been tied out to the message extra record. Again, all the data are here, what basically the data we are trying to send to. If you click on this record hyperlink, it will basically take you to that particular record itself. Okay, you can see that what is the it's update or create. And okay, so if I now go into the message extracts, which are, let's say, generated from some other system. So for example, this one is generated from Rightmove. Okay, that's been failed. If I go into, let's say, okay, this one generated from Orchard. Okay, as you can see here, you can see the data. You can again see the raw data. You can see the correlation ID, and also you can see that it's been sent successfully to Dynamics. Data successfully updated. Okay, now how it all works, how it all come here. So for example, as you can see here, what I was showing in the message extract overview, this is a stream view of the data. All of them are not processed. The processed one, you can click on that to go into that particular record, or you can see the tile view as well. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Ema.
again, this is about this week.
And on that, I think that, you know, when you've been talking to some of our existing customers who've created this level of integration, it's about transparency, right? And trusting the integration that's moving, that's happening, and being in control, in the driving seat of, you know, handling your data. We know that integrations, you know, can go wrong, and therefore, you know, through enterprise integration and through this capability, being able to interact with that, and rather than, you know, spending, as was with the old time, what's gone wrong with the integration because of poor API information or poor capability. This gets us right to the point of showing what's going wrong with the data, but more importantly, giving us assurance of all the successes that are happening with the data and how interaction messages are being sent to and from. And I think what's common from what we've seen with a lot of housing associations that may be on the call or that may not, is that you're right, it's not always one single data source. So others will already have started or been down a journey of creating a data warehouse, or the housing management system, as it says today, there isn't a data warehouse. So the ability to connect up to more than one data source and, you know, validate the same data to make sure that you've got continuity is super important. And I think you've just got a couple of questions here. So So Vishwa's got a couple of questions. So there is still concern in some organizations in investigating a dedicated middleware integration technology. For example, Power Automate could be used for integration versus enterprise integration. What is your view on this? And I
Yes.
suppose that's one for Ollie and for Sumo.
Power Automate definitely can be used. As I said, if it is, we need to, when we design a solution, we need to look at where it is going to. Does it need to have a your capability within the system or not? Does it need to have a performance associated with it or not? I'll give you a simple example. Let's say we had a customer. They wanted to send the data to another ERP system, and because of the time and constraint, they utilized Logic Apps. During UAT, they contacted us. We implemented Dynamics for them, but we didn't implement the Crimson integration framework. They came to us and then they said that they have got 100,000 data to be processed every night into some other the ERP system, and the Logic Apps is failing. So as you can see here, Logic Apps are actually very good process, and it's also a iPaaS system. It can send the data using the orchestrations, and it's a low code, no code. But is it good for performance? No, it's not. The moment you put load into Logic Apps starts to get shaky. It starts to fail. So although it is very good for a point-to-point low data set, but when you put the load in there, it's not good for the performance. That is the reason we say that, okay, do a proper design, and we choose the best cases for the particular technology. And then Power Platform is great for certain scenarios, but it's not great for this kind of stuff.
Thanks, Sumo. And Vishwa, I think you've got a second question from you. If you're comfortable, I'll at this point, just because of time, we've got a 10-minute question and answer session at the end. So I'll raise that at the end of the session if that's okay. But thanks, Sumo, for the clarity on that.
Yeah. So one of the capability, as you can see here, let's say this is one of the thing which has been failed. You can just select the record, and you can just say that recreate or mark as result. When you say recreate, it tries to resend the data. It tries to resend the data to the destination again. It may happen that your destination system was down because of some scenarios. We have seen that our ERP was down, and then we because of network error or something, and then you already have captured the data, and then you try to resend it, or you think it's a data issue, then you can just mark it as resolved. So plenty of our customers, they actually monitor the dashboard every day, and then they think that, okay, that's fine. If there is no error, it's a perfect integration system, and that is correct. Although you will get the notification, but it's just checking the due diligence that yes, the integrations are running perfectly fine. Just few minutes on here. So as you can see here, I have said this is the integrity, this is the engine of the Crimson integration framework. It's all on portal, it's all on your AIS systems. Each of these units, we have got few functions, but also we had few Logic Apps wherever we think that they are required or they are good, and also we have got other things. I talked about the entire messaging journey. So that messaging journey is actually been in the log analytics. I probably will share with you later that how you can see the entire thing from one to the another, but it's all tied down here. So if you come here, if you get this correlation ID or any of this key information, search, it will tell you the entire messaging journey of this particular record, where it is generated, how many layers it has gone through, and whether it's been successful or a failure.
Thanks, Sumo.
Yeah, over to you, Jordan.
Thanks. And Ollie, I know you're keen to, with unlocking this sort of powerful integration capability that we've done here. Of course, the flip side of that is having that integration means we can unlock proof of concepts, hybrid ways of working, start to create impact within housing associations to use Dynamics to solve business problems, whether that's short-term problems or looking at a longer-term strategy of using Dynamics for some of the core housing capabilities, customer-facing interaction, and of course housing operations. So yeah, over to you, Ollie, just to talk a little bit about that.
Brilliant. Cheers. Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Sumo, as well. Great demo on the capabilities of the integration framework. Absolutely. Like, so once we have this, integration set up, I've just taken us through to Alex McCarthy, who you probably saw in some of the examples of Sumo's. This was the context that is integrated into that example. So that goes between Dynamics and the housing management system. But what we also have now, because we have that integration, we also have his tenancy record. So we've got a lot of information about Alex. Some of this stuff would be native to Dynamics. So if it was case management, you'd be able to create your cases there. And also then down below, we've got his actual tenancy record. So this information can be completely consumed from your housing management system. And it would just show links and information around that tenancy for somebody to be able to access within Dynamics and be able to view. That's great. That's useful. But actually, when we're thinking about proof of concepts, we're thinking about a business process, or we're thinking about a need. And one of the things that came to light on previous implementations was housing officers going out and doing starter tenancy visits. Now, back in the day, the starter tenancy visit might have been a paper form that they take with them, and they go and see their tenant, and they tick off, yes, the tenant's moved in, yes, some utilities have done, yes, we're identifying the tenants and the occupants, and talking them through some of the processes and making sure that they're good in their property, and they're happy and they've got no issues. One of those elements is around whether they've got satisfactory rent accounting, and whether they set up their housing benefits payments and whether they're being received. Now, that's a conversation that you can have with with your tenant at the time you're speaking to them. The difficulty is accessing that data and to be able to highlight that at the appropriate time. So what I'm going to show you now is actually, now we've got the data in Dynamics, well, now we can reference that data in Dynamics. What does that mean? Well, we're going to create, rather than having a paper form, we've got a Canvas application that actually takes us through that tenancy visit, but will give you the relevant information at the right time relating to the tenancy and maybe some of the tenancy transactions, just so that the housing officer has enough ammunition to be informed on that conversation with that tenant and help them out and get to a resolution quicker. So what I'm going to take you through now is just a very quick demonstration. What we've got down here is the housing visit app. We can go and create a new visit. We can see our old visits, and we can actually do a person search and go find some details. There's a little bit around safeguarding as well. Obviously, this is supposed to be an app that these guys can go on their tablet, go along. So there's some other functionalities I won't talk through today. But what I will go through just in my short time that I've got left is just to take you through a new visit. So we would go through and we would have a specific visit. It would be on a specific day and a specific time, and we would go find our tenancy record. Now, the first thing that you should see, it doesn't seem to be loading, which is always good. Demo gods are not happy with me. What usually happens in this point, I'll just quickly do a quick refresh to see if that helps the situation. Yeah, what we usually should see, and again, this is the ability to actually consume completely external data. So where we've got here, I've actually done a query based on the tenancy location onto Bing Maps. And one of the issues that housing officers had was, yeah, we know how to get to the tenancy. This is our patch. Like we know where these properties are. The things that we're struggling actually with is when we're ready to go, what's the best way of getting there? And sometimes now that COVID's happened, the traffic is not as normal as it used to be in terms of rush hour and things like that. So I want to just very quickly find and not get bogged down with traffic. So I'm just going to very, very quickly show that this property's here. And actually at the moment, if I went down Figs Marsh Way, well, that's not a good idea. Maybe I'm just going to go around Lambda Fields. That seems a little bit easier to get to their property. Brilliant. So it's about gleaming information completely externally from Bing Maps, but because we've got that data about the tenancy, we can surface that at the appropriate time. the first thing that these guys want to do is, yes, we're confirming that Alex and Alison have actually moved in, and we're agreeing that these guys are the right people. So a quick double check, and we're happy. So we're going into the next part now. We're going into the checklist area where we've got things that we know we need to talk about to these people. You know, we're talking through the heating system that they have. We're talking about or looking around and making sure that the condition of property is satisfactory to our standards. We're also talking through, you know, have they got all of their utilities, their gas, their electric, are they all set up correctly, and an explanation around contents insurance and maybe something that we can provide them. The other elements down the bottom are around the satisfactory rent account. Now, because we've taken the tenancy information from the housing association, the housing management application, and it's gleaned within Dynamics, we can consume that, and we know that the account status is clear, and we can actually see that they paid their deposit. And at the moment, yeah, it looks like they pay on the 28th of every month. They're up to scratch from January. It doesn't seem to be a problem, so I think we're all good with that. But what we haven't seen is we haven't seen any housing benefits payments come in. We've just seen their rent, which is okay. Is there something there? Do we need to chase, help them chase their housing benefits payments and get on top of that before they get into arrears? And also an option to say, you know, whether rent support is needed or not. If there were any issues with this account status, because we are there, we're talking to them there, we can then start maybe booking an appointment for rent support at that point. Finishing off the checklist, there's a couple of things that the Canvas app allows you to do is just quickly go through different areas. So the tenant's happy with the property. Yes, they are. So sorry, no, they're not. They've got some issues. So we can actually put and enter in some text and be able to do that. They've also agreed to follow up, which is really, really good. They want to follow up in October, and let's do it on the rental date so that we not at 10 o'clock at night. That would be quite bad. So we can keep going. So that's gone ahead and saved them. So very quickly we've gone from quite a limited paper-based form that doesn't really have any surrounding information, that doesn't give these housing officers the data that they need to be informed to do their job quickly and effectively, and being able to surface that with the Canvas app and looking at different elements of that data at the right time. Is really, really important, just to sort of show you that through there. So that again, so then looking back onto the tenancy record, you know, back into Dynamics, if we had a look at this, you can see that that visit number, that visit has just been created against the tenancy record, so we can then continue it and crack on and go through. So it's just a really quick, short demonstration about some of the powers of the Canvas app and some of being able to use the data at the right time, at the right business process, so these housing officers or whoever it may be can really target their job and get things done effectively. So that was pretty much a very quick demo from me, Jordan, but that one's good for today.
Thanks, Holly. Yeah, a really good example, and I think hopefully it's starting to come through in this session is that once we're able, you know, not only are we able to create effective integration into existing housing management systems or back office systems that you have today, quite quickly we can create tactical applications, whether that's something as simple as a housing visit form that's currently paper-based, that's digitized, or whether it's something, you know, bigger than that. The idea is that you can actually, through the capability, pass and confer data from your existing housing management systems without, you know, starting to create impact sooner rather than having to go through a complete process if shouldn't you want to. So, you know, I talked a little bit earlier about our housing solution accelerators. So Ollie's just shown there something as simple as a housing visit report. But of course, you know, some of our customers have started in different areas, whether that's looking at things like complaints, whether it's looking at new home sales for developments and marketing, and integrating that back into the housing management system once, you know, for a push on shared ownership and things like that, using Dynamics and capabilities within it to manage the sales and marketing for developments, or, you know, repairs, voids, complaints and compliments, and lettings. So what I've tried to give here is just a summary of some of the things that, you know, will in more detail what actually could we start doing and what could we get going in terms of plugging and playing into our existing housing management system, what proof of concept project examples could we take, and how quick could we get some of those things up and running. And here's just some examples for you on here. And again, of course, it's down to the scale of requirement. It's down to how much do you want to achieve, what's your current situation, where would you want to be. But we've got customers that are working with us today that are doing things like implementing and transforming the way in which they collect feedback and survey customers and get that great interaction with customers and tenants, and plugging that into their housing management system to make sure that there's a consistent integration with tenancy contacts, activity information, so that they've got actually and already started not only building a customer feedback and survey capability, but within Dynamics are starting to create a single view of that data to unlock future phases to be able to do more with Dynamics and the Microsoft platform. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. We've also done some really clever stuff around using Microsoft's new AI builder and integrating that into Power Apps. So being able to, certainly from an inspections perspective, use AI builder to do object detection and prediction, and look at, even retrospectively scanning a number of repairs images that have PPI in them, i.e. people, and where they need to be compliant, using the AI builder to object detect those, scan through hundreds of thousands of repairs photos over the years and delete those photos where not required. And of course, there's a much larger scale aspect of different things that housing associations talk to us that can take slightly longer, but that are also achievable through an integration and through an iterative phase. So at this point, we always leave about 10 or so minutes for questions and answers, and for you guys to take the opportunity to sort of reflect on anything that you've seen today and anything that you want to talk about. So we absolutely are going to do that. From our perspective, we help a number of our customers at the moment with successful funding for these type of proof of concept and hybrid start points with Microsoft. And if anyone would like to look at a specific example, whether it's ASB, whether it's complaints and compliments, whether it's something as simple as the inspections app that Ollie showed today, we'd be more than happy to run a session with you around what that could look like and how that could work in parallel to your existing housing management system. And to ensure that you guys, are on and available for our next session, which is going to be about, now is going to be about AI and data and predictive analytics for housing. Please do scan any of these QR codes, and for any event information like today, the QR code for our LinkedIn page, which is where it's all posted, is available. So let's just go to the Q&A session very quickly. Thank you, Viswa, for giving a couple of questions. The second question is the integration, not necessarily just technical, but needs to integrate with a specific step of a workflow or business process, or updating the data back into legacy system. What is the approach of Crimson integration for legacy systems that are considered more closed and do not have easy of integration and support kind of hybrid approach? So it's one probably for Sumo, and then I imagine Ollie, you'll probably dovetail onto that.
So there has been scenarios, or we also take into consideration there are certain systems which are more close to the native data. So if the native app doesn't have the features, then we build a connector for you. So we build a connector which is basically get the data and send the data. Also, in some of the terms that we do that, okay, get us the data, send us the data, and we do all the checks. For example, let's say when we get the data from a ERP system, there are certain scenarios that they are sending us, let's say, the application data, and then we are checking whether the application has been approved or not, whether there are selection criteria, they are satisfied or not. If this set of selection criteria is satisfied, then send it to destination A, otherwise send it to destination B, otherwise send it to destination C. All of these configurations, all the filter rules are actually within the Crimson integration framework. Okay, so we get the data, we filter it through, and then we send it. if the capabilities is there, that okay, the native app is actually sending us the data in that particular fashion, then we do not definitely need to do that kind of a filtration or filter criteria in our stuff. The good part of the integration framework is that all of these configurations, you actually do not need to change the app or the source code of anything. They are a simple JSON based configurations files. Definitely we would recommend you to source control it, but they are simple JSON bits, and it's very easy that if you change any of this filter criteria, it's a matter of few minutes job to just change that configuration settings in there.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, it's also I think we did a webinar not that long ago around sort of the other elements around integration options that you've got in terms of virtual entities and doing some of those other elements that may not be so enterprise level. So the other thing to mention, I think we did demonstrate that within that that webinar. Was around a newish technology from Microsoft, which is the Power Automate desktop. So the sort of the UI flow where you actually can integrate into some really legacy systems or legacy websites. I think the example I used was PCOL, so Possession Claims Online. If you guys sort of have used that from a finance perspective, the website is pretty archaic, it's pretty old school, but effectively you can actually, using UiPath, integrate and create PCOL submissions from your data within Dynamics at the right time within your business process. So if you can do that with a really legacy website like PCOL, you can imagine you could do that with a lot of your other legacy systems that just don't have the access and don't have the ability to do that. It does take some setup and there is some config, but again, the vast majority of that is sort of still in that low code, no code element. But it's not something that you would sort of say, do I do enterprise or do I do UI flow? There are certain scenarios where one is absolutely better than the other, and some scenarios where you've only got one choice. So it's worth mentioning that.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. If anyone's got any final questions for the last 3 minutes, just drop them in the chat. One that gets asked a lot, Ollie, when we talk about hybrid solutions, proof of concepts, and transitioning from existing housing management systems for certain capability. So take the example, you have a housing management system where the complaints and compliments aspect isn't quite working for you. And then you might then go and do Dynamics in more areas of the housing association, but starting with that. Can you just talk to us, I suppose, Ollie and Sumo, a little bit about your view on how housing associations can start with a certain integration and how that goes through transition in future phases?
Yeah, so for the housing association, yeah, sorry, Ollie, you go ahead.
No, go for it, mate. Yeah, come.
For the housing association sector, we have, from an integration perspective, we have got several already inbuilt connectors. So that means it's been tested connector. We just put it in there, and then that will start exchanging data between the systems. So I'll just take that point over here, what Chris mentioned, that the data transformations, yes, all these transformations are part and parcel of the Crimson integration framework itself. So you do not need to transform it anywhere else. So from example, Dynamics, when you get the data from Dynamics, it's in a particular structure. But let's say your ERP system or Orchard needs a different structure. So all the mapping configuration, the mapping file, they are within the transformation layer of the Crimson integration framework. Yeah. So all these, using these connectors, you should be able to build the proper housing association framework.
Perfect. Thanks, Sumo. Perfect. Well, I'm conscious we're 1 minute away from closing today's session and finishing on time. Thanks again to everyone for jumping on and joining us. As I say, please do follow us on LinkedIn. Come along to our next session, which is talking about AI. And if you're able to give us feedback with the left-hand side QR code, I normally enjoy this bit because it's quite funny because people are normally sat there on their phones trying to scan things, and I think a few of you are a bit shy this morning, but yeah, please do give us feedback, and we always have a prize draw for those who do give us feedback. And it's about, for us, creating a forum in the housing sector to give you guys some feedback, some updates, some insights on how we can do things, and as a Microsoft partner, make things better with business solutions in the sector. So once again, thank you for this morning. Thank you for your time. Yeah, we hope to see you in about 6 weeks' time. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Right.